Hey guys, I'm Geoff Feinberg here with another video for oddschecker.com. This time breaking down Week 7 NFL DFS action on DraftKings FanDuel, helping you set the lineup this week to win us some of those DFS bucks. Like, sub, comment, tell me which DFS plays of mine you like, which one of mine you'd rather fade. Let me hear it now instead of on Monday morning. We'll get right into it. Quarterback. Kyler Murray, $7,100 on DraftKings, $8,400 on FanDuel. This game is going to be really hard to get away from a DFS perspective, especially. It has a 56-point over-under, according to Vegas, and the Seahawks defense is getting absolutely shredded week in, week out. It doesn't matter who the opposing quarterback seems to be. They're giving up the second most points to quarterbacks on the year. Murray's passing, while it has been hit or miss for the most part, his floor remains incredibly high with his ability to rush the football and break big runs and get rushing touchdowns. He's averaging 8.5 rushing attempts a game, and his speed is always an X factor in these games and getting some of those points on the ground that makes us comfortable making this Kyler Murray start. 7,100 on DK, 8,400 on FanDuel. Cheaper option at quarterback this week. We're looking at Teddy Roosevelt, Bridgewater, 5,800 on DraftKings, 6,800 on FanDuel. There are multiple reasons that I love Bridgewater in DFS this week. His price point allows you to spend up across the board at other positions. And two, the Saints have given up the fourth most fantasy points to quarterbacks this year. Last time out on Monday, we saw rookie Justin Herbert have little to no problem moving the ball effectively for the majority of that game. Bridgewater brings DJ Moore, Robbie Anderson, reliable targets, providing really good stack options if that's something you're interested. And Kamara and Michael Thomas provide great bring-back options in this game, potentially, if using a cheaper option like Teddy Bridgewater. Also, Saints expected to take this thing by over a touchdown. I think it'll present lots of opportunities for passing yards for Bridgewater throughout the course of this game, especially if the game flow goes as I suspect it shall. Running back, Aaron Jones, 7,200 on DraftKings, 8,500 on FanDuel. Jones is getting a decrease in price this week from last week, and he has an exponentially better matchup, in my opinion. The Houston Texans are giving up the second most fantasy points to running backs this year. After a bad loss to the Buccaneers last week, I expect the Packers to bounce back in a big way. Jones was an expensive buy last week against a tremendous Buccaneers defense, a phenomenal front seven that is at times impossible to run against. So we get the price reduction, and maybe he's fallen out of favor in some people's eyes, which would be crazy in my opinion. But I expect a big bounce back from the Packers this week. That's just sort of what they do. That's sort of Aaron Rodgers' MO. Jones also getting 5 targets a game and has a touchdown in every single game. These are things I'll keep going to the well for. His price point actually represents value at $7,200 on DraftKings, $8,500 on FanDuel. Sticking at running back, the same game. David Johnson continues to come in at only $5,300 on DraftKings and $6,300 on FanDuel. The only team giving up more points to running backs than the Texans are the Green Bay Packers. Johnson certainly isn't the same player that he used to be, but he's still getting a ton of volume in this Texans offense. It seems like it might now open up a bit without Bill O'Brien. He hasn't had fewer than 15 touches in any game this year and continues to get the goal line work. The biggest scare is if the Packers get up huge, they need to eliminate Johnson and throw the ball. But after a tough loss to the Titans last week and a point spread of 3.5, I actually expect this. Well, I do think the Packers do prevail here. I think this is going to be a close game. As we saw last week, even against a tough Titans defense, the Texans offense was able to move the ball. Seems like, again, with Crennel there and O'Brien out, and you could argue with the record, the season at a loss, they're just going for moral victories, and that hopefully involves yards and touchdowns for their key fantasy players. Wide receiver, Stephon Diggs. Bills coming off 2 ugly, nationally televised moved games against the Texans, against the Titans and the Chiefs. Nothing makes a team heal, get better, get right faster than a date with the New York Jets. And Diggs has an incredible matchup this week, the most favorable, arguably the fifth most favorable matchup on the slate. Brian Daboll has already talked about getting Josh Allen right, so expect him to throw early and often. I don't really want to throw a ton of like past game analysis into that game, but I actually thought early in that game the Bills schemed an incredible game. Allen couldn't hit his receivers. He was like 2-9 out of the gate. But on those first two drives, Brian Daboll, at least in my opinion, schemed wide open receivers on nearly every play. So I don't really hold him responsible. I think he's an exceptional game scripter, and I think the Bills, obviously, it's the Jets. Big bounce back for Josh Allen and his parts in Buffalo, obviously. Stephon Diggs involved in that. Keenan Allen, $6,200 on DraftKings, $7,000 in FanDuel. Allen might have the matchup of the week this week against Jacksonville's Trey Herndon, giving up 71% catch rate. Allen is simply one of the best route runners in the National Football League, so he should be open early and often against the Jags this week, potentially with back spasms that caused him to miss the majority of the Monday night. Could keep his ownership potentially scaled down, you hope, because this is such an attractive matchup. Off the bye week, I hope the back spasms, I like to think the back spasms, which haven't really been a thing in Keenan's career, was just a minor blip during that Monday Night Football game. If he plays the whole game, he's going to have a huge game. I expect the Chargers to have a huge game. I'm repping my Bolts today. Been a tough season, but getting love with the rookie quarterback. On the weekly Spread Picks podcast I do with Pat Mayo Experience on Mayo Media Network, I am 5-1 this year with my super locks. My super lock, every lock has a key, but we have fun. We give our favorite play of the NFL board. Through 6 weeks, I am 5-1 with my favorite play. This is the first time this year I'm going to my Chargers. I believe the spread of 7.5 actually isn't high enough. Using that odds checker grid, FanDuel in that -105, -7.5 appears to be the best place to get this one. Chargers 4-1 ATS on the year this year. Granted, this is a big script reversal, and now they'll need to cover a number. They'll have to cover a number instead of protect a number as big underdogs. They're finally favorites in a game, but nonetheless, that's my super lock this week. I'm 5-1 with my favorite ATS games using that odds checker grid. -106 over at FanDuel is the best price I can recommend. Tight ends, wasteland, continuously. Schultz is now playing with Andy Dalton, which is an obvious downgrade from Dak Prescott, but he still has 5 targets in his last outing, and I expect an increase from that 5 this week. Washington giving up the 5th most points to fantasy tight ends this year. Dalton hopefully needs to lean on the tight end as he gets comfortable, because he certainly didn't look that on Monday. Schultz comes in with a price of $3,900 on DraftKings, $5,200 on FanDuel. Austin Hooper, my supplemental tight end suggestion, $4,000 on DK, $5,400 on FanDuel. Hooper is getting involved in this Browns offense. Last 3 games, target numbers of 6, 10, and 7. We're banking on that returning this week. Bengals giving up lots of points to tight end, 6 to be exact in the league. Whether it's Mayfield or Keenum in there, Stefanski loves to use his tight end. And honestly, this might sound crazy. I actually think if it is Keenum, there might be more value with the safety net this week and maybe some conservative looks from Stefanski. So, as again, we're hoping we can replicate these target numbers from Hooper, and we'll enjoy this investment in him this week. Defense, special teams. Don't like any of my options, and you might know that from my suggestions. Cardinals, $2,300 on DraftKings, $3,800 on FanDuel. Brutal matchup against Seattle. Brutal! I know, right? But the Cardinals get pressure at a pretty high rate this year, guys. 8th highest in the league. If you need an absolute punt on the defense, the Cardinals can get you some sacks and some pressures, maybe force a turnover or fumble, outgain their price point. I do not now like that this game is moved to Sunday Night Football. I wrote this up before that. Feels like prime time adds an extra element of scoring. So maybe you'll recommend my other DFS defensive suggestion, which you might throw up in your mouth at the Cowboys. $3,000 on DraftKings, $3,700 on FanDuel. Washington, the third adjusted highest sack rate of any team in the NFL. The Cowboys have the 10th highest pressure rate of all teams in the NFL. This is a good matchup for Dallas. Shocking. It's hard to find a defensive matchup that might actually work. Kyle Allen recorded a fumble and an interception in last week's game against the Giants. Sacks and turnovers are the name of the game. Opportunities when it comes to DFS defense. So that's why I am recommending the Cowboys, plugging my nose and recommending the Cowboys this week. I'm Geoff Feinberg. Hope you enjoyed another DFS NFL picks video from me, getting you set for Week 7 in the National Football League. I'll be back next week with more PGA Tour coverage, NFL coverage, all here on Odds Checker. Like, sub, comment, sub, so these drop right into your feed, and I don't got to bug you to watch them. They'll be right there for you. Again, leave a comment. Tell me which plays of mine you like, which ones of mine you plan on fading. Give me a suggestion. I'm all ears. And don't forget, support me, support Odds Checker. Hit that like button so we can keep crushing these videos for you in the future. I'm Geoff Feinberg. Have a great weekend, friends.